You are listening to the Space-Tastic Mysteries podcast. We are continuing Anna Gale Line's third novel in the Jaguar and Peacock series, Lost on Planet M-142. Trapped on the hostile world of Planet M-142, Commander Jessa Peacock Masters of the Intergalactic Intelligence Bureau has spent 3 grueling months undercover, investigating a mysterious cult led by the enigmatic blind prophet, Danielle Jabot. Is Jabot a visionary, a fraud, or something far more dangerous? The deeper Jessa digs, the more tangled the web becomes: secrets, deception, and whispers of an impending assassination. When her husband and fellow operative, Nate Masters, finally joins her, their mission takes a deadly turn. Someone wants Danielle Jabot dead, and the list of suspects is as vast as the stars. As Jessa and Nate race against time, they must navigate a treacherous world of fanatic followers, shadowy enemies, and their own rekindled partnership. With every step closer to the truth, one question looms: is Jabot the target, or the mastermind? This is episode 15, Let's Make a Deal. If you have not subscribed, do so now, and hit the bell to be notified of new episodes.
The grocer? His real name is Take Lewis, I informed her, bracing myself for her reaction. You're Take Lewis. My son. My son is in town, exclaimed Danny, feeling for me. She threw her arms around me. When she let me go, she said, I've got to go see him. I've got to tell my son that I'm his mother. She pushed the tray away and scooted to the edge of the bed. I have reason to believe he knows, I noted, letting the words sit in the air. Then why hasn't he contacted me? From the conversations I've had with him, I started, pushing the hair out of my face. His dislike of you is obvious. Why would he dislike me? She craned her head in my direction. I am not sure whether it is because of the rumor about the compound or if it's something else. Did you know that he had been abused in the prior home? I knew that Take had been removed from their custody, but I didn't know why or where Take was put, she stated flatly, her voice emotionless. The rules on Echo 6 concerning adoption are different from Earth. The records are sealed to the birth parents until the child is 18. At which time, the child has to authorize any opening of those records. She turned toward the wall. If she had been a sighted person, I would have thought that she was staring at it. Danny, we suspect that Take helped Hawk Pryor and Philip Matthews plant those bombs, I informed her as gently as I could muster. No, that can't possibly be true, she screamed, putting her hands over her ears. I don't believe it. I won't believe it. Why would my own son want to frame me for the bombings? That's what we intend to find out, Nate assured her, looking desperately at me. I could tell that Danny was growing on him too. Danny, the copper wiring and the chemical mausolab were both uniquely found on Echo 6, as well as the gun that shot at Nate and me, I supplied for Danny. And I know that your son knows where to get the copper wiring. So he knows how to get some copper wiring. Not some copper wiring. This wiring is only found on Echo 6, I told her as I noticed Philip Matthews poking his head in the room. Good, I see, you finally arrived. He met my eyes, gesturing with his head. Jay, can I see you in the hall for a moment? I'll be there, I answered, reaching for my crutches and putting them out in front of me. I turned toward Danny. I will be right back. I pulled myself up and hobbled across the room. Nate caught my hand as I tried to move past him. I will be fine, I said deliberately. He nodded, letting me go. Once outside, I plotted my next move in my head. Before he could say anything, I hobbled from one end of the hall to the other. I know. It looks bad. I made my way back to him again. We will just have to do damage control. I moved down the hall again. What are you talking about? What looks bad? Demanded Philip, grabbing my shoulders when I maneuvered my way toward him. I gestured toward Danielle's hospital room. Danny, she's in there, confessing everything to Nate. Confessing? What is she saying? How Hawk blackmailed her. How you assaulted her. About her affairs with her male followers. Giving your and her love child up for adoption. What possessed her to do that? She made a deal. She spills what she knows, and he gets her charges reduced. He must have a lot on her to make her scared enough to take that deal. He let me go and leaned against the wall. I shook my head. He wouldn't have anything if it weren't for me. He let out a low grunt. I am glad you are on our side. I have evidence on all of you, Hawk. Taken you, assaults, killings, bombings. I laughed. One false move. I go to Nate with my evidence, and there goes your freedom. You wouldn't. We'll implicate you as being a part of the alleged crimes. I tilted my head to one side and smiled sweetly. But no one will believe you. I have an impeccable record, and I have friends in high places. I shrugged my shoulders. You'd never win. Good thing I will never have to find out. Then we've got to keep Danny and Hawk's mouths shut. Philip closed the gap between us and grabbed me. I'll take care of it. Don't even worry that pretty little head of yours about it. He forcefully pressed me against him and kissed me hard. Why did he go and do that? I kicked him repeatedly, freeing myself from his embrace. I balled my fist, pulled it back and then punched him. He staggered a few steps before falling flat on his back. That was your one false move. Now your choices are limited. I walked around him, studying him critically. I can kill you now, putting you out of your miserable existence. I rounded his body. I can wipe out your bank account by taking your 30% in addition to my own 40%. I rubbed my chin with my hand. And the only way out of my torture is for you to make a deal with my clueless husband, I decided, gesturing toward Danielle's hospital room. Although if you cooperate, he will get your charges reduced. I walked back toward the hospital room, turning to look at him again. You could take the coward's way out and put yourself out of your misery. I spun on my heel and started into Danny's room. I'm Jeremy Curzon's father. I'm your son's father, he announced. I refused to acknowledge him, but my heart pounded at the thought of Philip Matthews being Remy's father. I moved back into Danny's room. Could he really be Remy's biological father? Brooklyn Curzon was assaulted. And Philip Matthews was a convicted rapist. I pushed the thought out of my mind. I would have to deal with that later. Right now I had a case to wrap up. Did you see that shiner on Philip's face? Asked Nate as we walked up to the door of March's Mercantile. He kissed me. I had no choice, I replied, grabbing the door. A picnic basket on my arm. You did that? If I get my hands on him, he is going to wish he had only a black eye to deal with, he stammered through clenched teeth, slamming his fist into his other hand. That black eye is the least of what is tormenting him, trust me. I turned and glanced at Nate. You ready to put our plan in action? Trying to get them to turn on each other, he answered, putting his arm around me. He leaned in and kissed me. That's brilliant. I plastered a smile on my face before opening the door to the Mercantile. Take Lewis had his back to me, but I could see him chatting on the phone. I'll be right with you, he called out. Come on, Jada, we've almost got this wrapped up. 2 of our key players have confessed. We can be back home by the end of the week, Nate ventured, standing with his back against the counter, arms folded. Philip Matthews and Danielle Jabot turned on Take Lewis and Hawk Pryor that quick, he continued, snapping his fingers. If I ever get my hands on that Philip Matthews, I will kill him for what he did to you. I could see Take Lewis glancing back at us periodically. That isn't going to do us any good. There will be an investigation and we'd never get home in time for our son's birthday. I lifted my basket onto the counter. I took the checkered board cloth out of it, spreading it out. I started transferring the vegetables out of the basket and onto the cloth. Did I tell you that Danielle Jabot and Philip Matthews have a son together, Take Lewis? Take Lewis, the one who bought the copper wiring on Echo 6 and that we suspect bought the gun that shot at us, Nate questioned, tilting his head to look at me. He touched my shoulder, smiling playfully. Yeah, that one. Can you believe how quickly Philip Matthews ratted out his son like that? I moved a few squash from the basket to the cloth. He's a convicted rapist. I think when he got involved with Hawk Pryor, he got in over his head. Hawk, now, he's the one we have to watch out for. I transferred carrots, broccoli, and cabbage from the basket to the cloth. I don't know about that. Philip Matthews and Hawk Pryor are both frightened by you. He swung around, digging his hands into the basket, unpacking vegetables. You've put bullets in both of them. If I wanted them dead, they would have been. I'm an excellent shot. In silence, we finished transferring the rest of the vegetables onto the cloth. Here's your vegetables, I told Take, who still had his back to me. I turned around, wobbling toward the door. As I pushed it open, I called back, "Have a good day, Take." I slipped out the door before I could catch his reaction. Once outside, Nate fell in step with me. Do you think he bought it? I don't know. We will have to wait and see. As we approached the apartment, I noticed through the window that Bree and Colin were having an intense conversation in the dining area. I wonder what that's all about, I remarked, rounding the corner into the carport. I let myself in the side door and made a beeline for the chatting duo. Is this a private conversation or can anyone join? I inquired, announcing my presence. When their eyes flew to mine, I noted the triumphant smiles on their faces. Something happened that they were bursting to tell me about. I glanced at Nate, who had joined me at the table, then at Colin and Bree. Is someone going to tell us what happened? What did you say to Philip Matthews that convinced him to make a deal with us? Asked Bree, leaning back in her chair, folding her hands behind her head. A little intimidation goes a long way, I answered, pulling out a chair and sitting down. Did we get anything useful? Nate queried as he turned the remaining chair around and straddled it. Between Danielle Jabot and Philip Matthews' statements, we've got enough to put all four of them away for a long time, Bree replied, leaning forward, plopping her elbows on the table. He had some awful things to say about you, Peak. I can't believe your plan to work from the inside out worked so well. He was shaking every time he mentioned your name. You doubted me, I asked, feigning a pout. That's not all, Colin added, tipping his chair backwards so only the back legs were touching the ground. Take Lewis called. He wants to meet you for dinner. He says it's urgent. I looked at Nate, then at Colin and Bree. It could be a trap, I observed. The strange thing is that he asked for both of you, Colin informed us, intertwining his fingers. That is strange, I agreed, rubbing the muscles in my neck. Where and when? Tonight, 1900 hours at the diner. Colin placed the chair on all fours again. I faced Bree again and wondered, what are we doing to prevent Philip Matthews and Danielle Jabot from discussing their deals with the others? Philip Matthews is being extradited back to Earth at this very moment. Graham sent agents to get him, Bree began, propping her head up with her elbows, which were still on the table. As for Danielle Jabot, I have posted agents at the hospital to take her back to Earth once she's able. They have strict orders not to let Take Lewis or Hawk Pryor in. Good, very good, Nate said, standing up and walking to the refrigerator. He pulled open its door and retrieved a pitcher filled with ice water. He slammed it shut. Looks like we can be home in time for Remy's birthday, after all. Pulling open a cabinet, he grabbed 4 glasses. He carried the pitcher and glasses to the table. Passing them out, he continued, Did you see that shiner Peak gave Philip Matthews? You did that, Colin exclaimed. His eyebrows shot up in surprise as he gaped in stunned silence for a few seconds. Good work. I'm not proud of it. I poured water into a glass, sipping it. It was time to breach the possibility that Philip Matthews was Remy's father. I replaced the glass, taking a deep breath. Bree, I need a DNA test done on Philip Matthews. One to compare his DNA to Take Lewis. Also, we need to compare Take Lewis' DNA to Danielle Jabot. Do you think that Philip Matthews isn't who he says he is? Prompted Nate, tracing the top of his glass. Not quite, I responded, glancing over at Nate. I closed my eyes and scrunched up my face. Oh, I should have told you before when I found out. Told me what? Nate demanded, slamming down his fist against the tabletop. I opened my eyes and caught his glare. Philip Matthews claims that he is Remy's father. I heard a collective gasp. You don't believe him, do you? He snapped, standing up and facing the window. I'm Remy's father. He is my son. Yes, but I think we should find out if Philip Matthews is Remy's biological father. What if Remy has a medical problem down the line? It would be good to know whose DNA he has, I suggested, rising to my feet. I grabbed my crutches and moved toward him. I touched his shoulder. You know I am right. I just keep seeing his face, that blonde-haired, blue-eyed innocent. I remember the day he came to us, how heartbroken he was over his mother's death, his nightmares, how he cried himself to sleep, how helpless we were to make the hurt go away, Nate recalled, folding his arms. He glanced back at me. I remember you telling me that the only thing we could do was to be there for him. He nodded. It was great advice. I love him like he was my own son. He is my son, and I don't want Philip Matthews to hurt him. He's going back to jail, Jag. He will have no contact with Remy whatsoever, I assured Nate, massaging his shoulders. You are so tense, but at least, you are getting more of your memory back. He reached out and clutched my hand and smiled. I just wish we were home aboard the Liberty, celebrating Remy's birthday. It's his first as a part of our family. I looked down at my watch. We have a few hours before we have to meet Take Lewis. Why don't we call those adorable kids of ours? Nate agreed, and we spent the rest of the afternoon getting reacquainted with Reggie and Remy.